Hi, everybody. It's Julie Ebersol for EllenHudson.com. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I'm going to be doing a really fun, super easy interactive card. It's called a Tilt and Pivot, and I'm going to be working with some Catherine Pooler ink. This is Fiesta Blue, and I've got a quarter sheet of Neenah Solar White in 80 pound, and I'm working on a nonstick craft sheet. I've grabbed my Clarity stamp stencil brushes, and I've got the really big one here, and I've loaded it up with ink. And the one thing I really like about this ink and using these brushes is I'm going to get a really nice, smooth sponging when I'm adding the paper here. I've tried using the ink blending tool and I just never get good results. And so I found that these stencil brushes work a lot better for me. And I'm offloading some of the ink on the very tips of the bristles onto my nonstick craft sheet. And this is just to help avoid getting any brush or bristle marks on there. And I'm just going to go back and forth, always going from off the paper onto it and off on the other side. And so I'm just flicking this back and forth really fast. And I love how it gives you that really smooth sponged look, and it looks way better than when I use my blender tool because I just cannot seem to get the hang of it with the blender tool. So I've given up and I just use these brushes now, and all is right with the world. So now I'm going to take my finished panel, and I trimmed off 1/4 inch there along that long edge, and you'll see why as I progress with the card. But anyway, I'm going to grab these wave dies. These are by Lawn Fawn, and I want to separate this piece by cutting it with this decorative edge here, and then I'll be able to layer these two pieces together, and this is going to create a water effect on my card front. So I do want to trim off that other edge there, right there. I like it better when I have straight edges, so when I go to mount things and line them up on my card, I can see very clearly and line them up because they're justified like that. So once I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and set those aside and work on the base card. Now this is Neenah Solar White 110 pound from the base, and I already folded it and I've loaded it into the Misty. This is the mini Misty, and I've got a greeting from this great set by Avery Elle called Splash, and I've gone ahead and mounted that where I need it, and then I'm going to ink up with the VersaFine Clair in Nocturne and get that stamped onto my base card, and then I don't have to worry about the base card anymore. So I have taken one of the floaties from this awesome stamp set and already stamped it, colored it with colored pencils, and then die cut it out with the coordinating die. And this is going to be the mechanism or the piece that actually rocks or tilts or pivots on my card. So I'm just kind of lining it up and determining where it needs to be on there, because if I push it too far to one side or the other, I'm not going to have enough room for the pendulum to swing back and forth very freely. So I have to make sure I'm not too far off center to allow that pendulum to swing. So I'm going to make a little pencil mark here once I'm sure where I need that pendulum to get mounted, and I'm going to go ahead and use a hole punch to punch a tiny hole there on that back wave panel. And then I'm going to grab these mini glue dots. I love these because they come on these sheets and you can just tear them up, these little perforated sheets apart, and then when you're ready to, you can peel away the liner. I like these so much better than the rolls of glue dots. I don't know why, but this is just like my favorite kind of glue dot when it comes on a perforated sheet like this. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the little piece of scrap cardstock I've got here. This is just a soft blue that I knew if it showed up, it wouldn't be high contrasting. And so I'm just kind of lining that up there on the bottom of my little flamingo floaty guy, and then that's going to be at the very top and mounting it on the back side. And then I'm going to mark another hole, and the reason why I did this is I just wanted to make sure I got it pretty much centered. Sometimes when I eyeball things, I'm off a bit, and I wanted to make sure I was getting it more centered than off. So I marked it with a pencil, and this is where it's going to get mounted onto that back panel of waves. And I'm going to add a couple of those thin 3D foam dots, and I'm going to leave the liner papers on them. I put them onto the back of my flamingo, but the other liner papers I'm going to leave on. And the reason for that is I want it to pop up from the surface, but I want the waxiness of those liners to actually allow the flamingo to rock back and forth smoothly without getting hung up. So now I'm going to take the little mini brad that I've got here, and I'm going to go ahead and thread it through that pendulum piece as well as the back panel of waves. And then I'm going to use my piercing tool here to curl the edges of that mini brad over. And the reason why I'm doing that is I don't want it so tight that it's super flush to the back side of that panel. And I just wanted you to see how I'm allowing some clearance there so that it can spin and pivot very freely. So I'm going to trim off my pendulum piece, and then I'm going to grab another one of those nifty little glue dots and add that to the bottom of that little strip of cardstock. And this is going to get a penny added to it, and this is going to create the pendulum effect because it's weighted and it's heavy. When I tilt that back and forth, you're going to see that my little flamingo floaty is going to tilt and rock back and forth. So that's how we're creating that effect. And then the next part is to actually hide all of that mechanism behind another layer of waves. So I'm going to grab some foam tape, but first I was kind of looking to see, how high do I need to mount that to hide that brad? And it looks like I needed to trim a little bit more off of that back panel. So rather than disassemble the whole thing, I'm going to wing it by leaving all of that in place because I think I can pull it off. And I'm going to mark how much I need to trim away, and I'm going to spin that flamingo around so she's not in my way. And then I'm going to slide that under the paper bale there on my guillotine bypass trimmer, and it looks like I've got enough room to do that. Otherwise I would have taken it apart, set it aside, trimmed it down, put it all back together again, but I was able to do it just like that, which is like, oh yes. So now I can come back in and start adding some foam tape, and I'm going to add one layer of foam tape around the perimeter here, and then I'm going to double it up. And the reason I want that extra thickness is I want that penny or the pendulum to have plenty of clearance behind the scenes there so that it can swing very freely back and forth. So once I have that double layer of foam tape around the perimeter, I'm going to add a couple small pieces here just to make sure that it doesn't swing too far, because if you really tilt the card, that penny could swing right all the way up and around if you wanted it to. So I'm just going to create a couple of like stoppers that go on each side of that penny to keep it from swinging too far. So now that you can see that that's functioning, it's time to go ahead and peel away all those liners and go ahead and take that top layer of waves, and we're going to hide all of that mechanism behind this top layer of waves. So once I have this on, I can go ahead and flip that over. I'm going to grab some more foam tape, and of course I have to test it first. I'm always testing it every step of the way just to make sure that everything's functioning the way it should be. So now I'm going to add another layer of foam tape, and I'm just going to go single layer on the back side of this. I don't need a double layer, but I'm going all around the perimeter, and then I'm going to add a couple pieces there just near the top to make sure that has really good support and it doesn't get mashed down against the front of the card. And then once I have all of those in place, those are not really necessary for anchoring that piece to the front of the card, but the longer ones are. So I'm going to go ahead and peel back the liner tapes on these, and I usually do it partially. And the reason for that is it gives me some handles kind of to hang on to. And then when I'm positioning this, it won't allow me to press it completely down onto my base card. So it's going to give me a little bit of fudge room here. So as you can see, when I trimmed off that piece earlier, when I first sponged it, now it's got a nice border all around it. I can get it lined up on my card front. I have a nice border going all the way down around the bottom there. And I just thought it was a nice look. So now I've got that pressed in place, and I'm going to embellish the tops of my waves with this Nuvo shimmer pen. I love this stuff in the clear. It can go over anything, and it adds lots of nice shimmer. I even did it on the little flamingo floaty. And then I'm going to add a couple of these droplets by High Supply with some on point fine tip glue, and there you can see what the finished card looks like and how my little flamingo is rocking back and forth on the card front. Super fun, super easy. We've got more still shots over on the blog. Please take a look at them. All of the supplies are listed down below here in the YouTube video description. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give us a thumbs up. And to see more of our papercraft videos, click on the photos below and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. Thanks for watching.